Some stories begin with love. Some begin with loss. And some begin the moment everything falls apart. This is Scarlett After Dark. Scarlett After Dark.
I'm Scarlett Stone. This is The Unraveling, a story about a secret affair, a dissolving marriage, and what it cost to want the wrong man. Let's get into it. Chapter 26. California was a mistake. California was a mistake. Not that I knew that going in. Going in, I had reasons. Good ones, I told myself. I had built a career there. I had girlfriends there, real ones, the kind I desperately needed around me after months of borrowed couches and borrowed grace, and the particular loneliness of being in the wrong place for too long. There was work there, maybe, if I could get in front of the right people. There was familiarity. There was the particular comfort of a city that knew me when I was someone. And there was David. Always David. Somewhere in the back of my mind, underneath all the practical reasons, was the quiet, irrational hope that being in his city might mean something. That I might run into him. That proximity might produce what years of wanting hadn't. I knew how that sounded. I went anyway. When I landed, I was set to go straight to Karen's. She called before I even got my bags. Could I stay at another friend's place for the night? She had someone on her couch. No problem, I told her. I meant it. She was doing me a huge favor, and one night elsewhere was nothing. It ended up being 2 more nights because she hadn't planned things out the way she'd said she had. I didn't make an issue of it. I was grateful, and I had nowhere else to be, and I was still operating under the assumption that Karen was the person I had always believed her to be. I was wrong about that, but I didn't know it yet. I knew it fairly quickly, but I stayed anyway because I had nowhere else to go, and because hope is a stubborn thing, even when the evidence against it is overwhelming. Karen had offered her couch, her car, her spare time. Stay as long as you need, use whatever you need. And I had taken that at face value because I was desperate, and because I had known her long enough to trust her, and because I had forgotten, apparently, that people reveal themselves most fully under pressure, and that pressure was currently being applied to everything in my life simultaneously. The apartment had vaulted ceilings and a staircase that led up to her bedroom. You walked in and there was a bathroom to the right, a kitchen to the left, and straight ahead, the living room. And just past that, a small balcony with a sliding door where she would smoke cigarettes, something you're not supposed to do on the property, but she did anyway. That was Karen. Rules didn't apply to her, but she was one to certainly set them for anyone and everyone who walked in and, eventually, out of her life. The walls had nothing on them. Literally nothing. No art, no photos, no evidence of a life being lived there with any intention. Something was off about the whole setup. The kind of off you file away when you have nowhere else to be. The first few weeks were actually good. That's the part I don't want to gloss over, because it's true and because it matters to what came after. I was back in a city I loved, around people I adored, and I felt myself coming alive again in a way I hadn't in months. maybe years. I went to parties with people from my old professional world. Familiar faces, familiar energy, the particular electricity of being back in rooms where people knew what you were capable of. I joined a social club. I had dinners with girlfriends that cost entirely too much and felt entirely worth it because I needed to feel like myself, and for a few hours, I did. I spent a lot of time with Heather, real time, the good kind, the two of us wandering the city together, catching up on years of living in different places, being reminded that some friendships survive everything. Things were looking up, genuinely. For the first time in what felt like a very long time, I could see forward. I spent a good portion of each day out of the apartment, walking to a nearby shopping center, finding coffee, giving Karen her space and myself a break from the nonstop sound of her on the phone. This woman was on the phone all day, every day, talking, never working, complaining she was broke while somehow always managing to have people do things for her. She had mastered that particular art, the helpless narcissist's gift of making her chaos everyone else's problem while maintaining complete plausible deniability about her role in creating it. I had always known she was a bit much, a bit narcissistic, a bit unmoored. Living with her showed me in real time just how much I had been underestimating all three. When a couple of other friends found out I was staying with her, they said it plainly. Why? She's a drunk and she's awful. Everyone knew. I knew too. In the abstract way, you know things about people you've kept at a comfortable distance. I had seen the edges of it over the years. I just hadn't seen the full thing up close, hadn't understood what it looked like when you were the one living inside it with no exit. I tried to stay out as much as I could. It was easier that way. Every night I would clear the couch, move the pillows to the side, lay down a sheet, pull a thin wool blanket over me, and try to sleep. It was not the down-filled, Tempur-Pedic plush situation I had been used to, but for a while it felt safe enough. That counted for something. Then the conditions arrived. Unspoken, shifting, impossible to meet because they changed depending on her mood and her drinking and whatever particular grievance had risen to the surface that day. If I didn't jump when she said jump, I was a terrible friend. If I answered a phone call in a way she didn't approve of, I was inconsiderate, unknowledgeable, someone who didn't know how to manage people or a situation. If I breathed incorrectly in her general direction, I was unworthy. She had a verdict for everything, and I was always the defendant. She dangled opportunities, too. That was another one of her moves. At some point, she told me about a job she could help me get. I got hopeful. She asked me to put together a budget and a fee. I did, lower than I would ever normally charge, because I was grateful, and because I was trying to be reasonable, and because I needed the work. All of a sudden, the job was off the table. Just like that, no explanation. The opportunity evaporated the moment I had jumped through the hoop she'd set up for me. That's how she operated, dangling things to keep people compliant and then withdrawing them to maintain control. The job was never going to happen. It was just another way of making me her dependent, her project, her person to manage. I did work for her and her friend for free. I did exactly what she asked, and still, somehow, I was the problem. And then there was the dating app. Heather and I had been spending a lot of time together. The good weeks, the social club, the dinners, 2 nights at her place when Karen's energy became too much to be around. We were laughing again, the two of us, feeling like ourselves. At some point, we discovered we were both matched with the same man on a dating app. We were joking about it, a three-way date to see how he was, who he'd choose, the absurdity of it. Light, funny, the kind of thing that only works between friends who trust each other completely. Then, back at Karen's, he messaged me directly. "I think I'm more interested in you than your friend." I stared at that for a moment. I didn't respond right away. I knew how this could land with Heather, given she'd just been through a breakup. When I did write back, I kept it light. He was going out of town. I told him to hit me up when he was back. Simple, friendly, nothing more than that. Then I got a text from Heather, a screenshot, him telling her he preferred me. She asked if I'd been talking to him. I shared my screenshots. He had said what he said. I had said what I said. It was all right there. She flew off the handle. "You asked him to text you when he's back." I called her immediately. "Are you really getting mad over a man we don't know?" "Yes," she said, and hung up. I texted her afterward, told her I wasn't going to meet him, that our friendship was more important, that I wanted to talk. Nothing. I have known this woman since I was 26. We had sworn to each other that if something ever came between us, we would talk it through. She won't respond. I understand where it came from. She had already been broken by one man from that world, the wound that hadn't fully healed. To have another man from that same world reject her in favor of her best friend, that's a specific kind of pain that bypasses reason. I can trace the injury even when I can't accept the response. But here's what I keep coming back to. She knew what I was going through. Homeless, broke, estranged from my daughter, navigating my child's transition, a husband who had stopped paying court-ordered bills, living on a stranger's couch in California. She knew all of it. And she chose to make a dating app man she had never met the thing that ended us. The math is not equivalent. A man from an app who chose differently versus a woman whose entire life has come apart at the seams. That's not a close call. That's not a moment where a real friend casts you out. And yet, there it was. I don't think she meant to be cruel. I think she just couldn't see it. Couldn't see me, not really. Not the version of me that was drowning. Some people can only see you through the version of you they've always known, the capable one, the one who figures it out. And when that version stops showing up, they don't know what to do with what's left. That didn't make it hurt less. Before I left for California, Heather had told me I could stay in her house, the one she was trying to sell, empty, available, a lifeline offered freely. I had held on to that in the back of my mind, the way you hold on to a safety net you hope you never need. By the time I was deep in it with Karen, that offer was gone, disappeared without explanation. I wasn't angry about it. I filed it away the way I had been filing everything. Another quiet disappointment from someone who had offered something and hadn't followed through. Another one for the pile. What stung more was the advice. Just get out, get any job, get on your feet. I understood what she meant, and I wanted exactly that. I had walked up and down an entire shopping center looking for help wanted signs, applied to more online jobs in a few months than I had in my entire adult life combined. I was trying. I was always trying. But it wasn't that simple. My living situation was adding fuel to an internal fire that was burning my soul. Living with someone who was emotionally abusing me was crippling in a way that's hard to explain to someone who has never been crippled. I had nowhere else to go. I had no independence, no autonomy. Only a brittle life that was now being controlled by a narcissist. I hadn't expected any of this. I hadn't planned to be here. And certainly not like this. Not in someone else's bare apartment, on someone else's couch, under someone else's thumb. But it's easy to look in from the outside and say the obvious thing when you have a cushion. When your father's money has always been there. When brave and daring choices are available to you because the worst case scenario has always been survivable. Heather had that. Angelica had that. Melissa had that. None of them had ever had to figure out how to move when there is no floor to move from. That's not a judgment. It's just the truth of what it feels like to be on the other side of it. So there I was. No Heather, just Karen. The bare walls, the thin blanket, the non-stop phone calls that filled every corner of that apartment like smoke. She was out for hours at a stretch. Events, errands, whatever Karen needed. And I was on the couch watching her dog and trying to be the guest I had always intended to be. Courteous, mindful, accommodating. The kind of person who doesn't make trouble and doesn't take up too much space, and is quietly, genuinely grateful, even when the situation doesn't deserve gratitude. For 4-5 weeks, I had been cleaning up after that dog, morning, noon, and night. Stepping in pee, stepping in worse. It was untrained, and she wouldn't allow me to take it outside, so there was no winning, just the mess and me and the paper towels and the same routine on repeat. One time I watched the dog wander into my bathroom and called its name to try to stop it. Karen looked up and said completely seriously, "Just turn away. Don't embarrass her. Just let her do her business. Don't embarrass the dog." The dog that was actively urinating on my bathroom floor. She was fully committed to letting that animal do whatever it wanted. 0 training, 0 accountability. Which, now that I think about it, tracked perfectly with how she ran every other aspect of her life. On the 3rd day, she asked me again. She was getting her eyelashes done. I said I couldn't. I had plans, a social event, real plans, people expecting me, something that was mine and normal and human. I was going stir-crazy. I needed to get out. I said it calmly. I held the boundary the way I had been practicing holding things, quietly, without fire. She flew off the handle. "You can't stay and watch my dog for half an hour because you want to go to a social event?" I knew it wouldn't be half an hour. It never was. Karen didn't do anything quickly. And if you tried to move her along, she'd toss it right back at you. Don't rush me. I don't like being rushed. She was excellent at setting her own boundaries and had 0 issue enforcing them on everyone around her. But the moment you needed to hold one for yourself, how dare you? The audacity, the selfishness, the fundamental failure of character. She had a full vocabulary for your limits and nothing at all for her own. And that was it. That was the match. Her time was more valuable than mine. That much was clear. She could set every boundary in the book, but I couldn't hold a single one. I was there to be useful, to be compliant, to be grateful on demand. Not a guest, not a friend, a resource. The apartment she lived in, paid for by someone else. The car she let me borrow, paid for by someone else. Everything this woman had, someone else had provided, and yet she wielded it all like currency, like leverage, like proof of her own generosity. The favors weren't favors. They were mandates with a smile on top. The friendship was conditional at every turn. Conditional on my compliance, my availability, my willingness to make myself smaller whenever she needed more room. She wasn't a friend. She was a warden dressed up as a savior. When I told her no, she couldn't handle it. She went off the rails. I can't believe you. I ask for this one favor and you have an event to go to. You're not a friend. You're not good for women, not a girl's girl. You're just selfish and rude. That's when it clicked. Fully, finally, with the particular clarity that only arrives when you're too exhausted to keep softening the truth. She had been rewriting reality the entire time, making me the problem, shifting the terms, moving the goalposts, turning her demands into favors and my boundaries into betrayals. That's not a difficult personality. That's gaslighting. Consistent, practiced, aimed directly at whoever was standing closest, which, for the past 4 weeks, had been me. As she walked up the stairs, still mumbling, "Over 30 minutes, I just need 30 minutes." I knew it wouldn't be 30 minutes. It was never 30 minutes with Karen. Time was hers. The world revolved around her schedule, her needs, her convenience, and everyone else was just expected to orbit accordingly. I was done orbiting. I lost it. "Don't gaslight me. I'm not your bitch." She didn't like that at all. I guess the truth hurts. She went to her bedroom. I heard her get on the phone within minutes, voice loud, deliberate, making sure I could hear every word. A friend on the other end, being told exactly what kind of person I was, how horrible I was, how ungrateful. I lay on the couch and listened to my own character assassination through the ceiling, delivered by a woman who had been drinking my wine and sleeping under a roof paid for by someone else. That call ended. Another one started. In and out she went throughout, bedroom to kitchen, kitchen to bedroom, refilling her glass with the wine I had bought, banging doors and cabinets, her voice getting louder and sloppier as the hours passed. Both calls, both friends, the same performance. As the night went on, she got progressively more drunk, the wine doing what wine does when someone is using it as both fuel and weapon. I lay on the couch and thought, her friends probably know exactly who they're dealing with. They're just too scared to say so. Both calls ended. She came downstairs. I closed my eyes, slowed my breathing, pretended to be asleep, hoping, genuinely, desperately hoping, that she would look at me lying there and decide it wasn't worth it. That whatever was left of her better judgment would override the wine and the outrage, and she would just go back upstairs and let it go. She never knew when to shut up and let things lie, especially not that night. She sat at my feet on the couch, cracked the patio door, and lit a cigarette. The smoke drifted directly into the space where I was lying, and she started talking. About what kind of person I was, what kind of friend, what I had done and failed to do, and what I fundamentally was at my core. She was wasted, the particular drunk that strips away whatever thin membrane of social functioning usually separates a person's worst thoughts from their mouth. And then she called me a narcissist. I came up off that couch like something had been lit under me. Go fuck yourself. I am no narcissist. You need to look in the mirror. She didn't flinch. You know what? It's good you're leaving. Just leave me alone. I said it flat and final. I'll be gone in the morning. She went upstairs. I lay back down on the couch. Sheet, thin blanket, vaulted ceilings, smoke still hanging in the air, and stared at nothing until the house went quiet. It was 3 in the morning. I was exhausted and diminished and increasingly unable to remember what version of myself I had been before all of this started. At 5 in the morning, I got up and packed my things. She came downstairs as I was leaving. I don't know why I did it. Some reflex of politeness, some deeply ingrained need to smooth things over even when I was the one who had been wronged. But I apologized. I was crying. She looked at me with the particular cool of someone who has been waiting for this moment. "Yeah, well," she said, "maybe you'll think about that next time you decide you want to call me a gaslighter." I left a note, too, apologizing again. For what, I have no idea. I was a mess, running on no sleep and too much accumulated pain. And apologizing was apparently what I did when I didn't know what else to do. I left behind hundreds of dollars of groceries, bins I had bought, things I had carried in and simply didn't have the capacity to carry back out. I lugged 2 massive suitcases and 2 huge bags into an Uber, and I left. I went to Amy's. When her husband opened the door, I broke down completely, something he had never seen from me before. Here I was, a 57-year-old woman in pieces on their doorstep, luggage piled around me, crying in a way I couldn't stop. He let me in without a word. That kindness, that simple, wordless kindness, nearly undid me further. I booked my ticket to Wyoming. I couldn't exit California fast enough. At the airport, I sat in the United Lounge and downed 2, maybe 3 glasses of wine, crying quietly into each one. I was shaking. I was lost. I was, yet again, transient, on my way to another place that wasn't my home, carrying everything I owned and none of what I needed, leaving a city I had loved and that had failed to save me. And somewhere in all of it, between the wine and the shaking and the gate number on the board, I thought about my mother, about how she would have picked up the phone, about how she would have said the exact right thing, not the clever thing, not the strategic thing, just the true thing, the warm thing, the thing only a mother knows how to say when her child is falling apart in an airport lounge. I would have given anything to hear her voice. I reached for my phone out of habit, put it back down, ordered another glass of wine instead. I still thought about David every single day. Through all of this, Karen, Heather, the court orders, the depleted bank account, the vaulted ceilings of that dark California apartment at 3 a.m. Every single day. What I was doing, I understood now, was romanticizing him. Taking whatever scraps of memory I had left, the rooftop in the marina, his hands, the way he said baby in the dark, and polishing them until they shone, until he became the only bright thing in a life that had gone almost entirely dark. It was a psychological mindfuck of the highest order, reaching for the person who had hurt me most because his memory felt better than the reality surrounding me. It wasn't love at that point. It was survival. It was me choosing a beautiful lie over an unbearable truth, over and over, because the alternative was sitting fully inside everything that was happening to me, and I couldn't do that. Not yet. Not in that airport. Not alone. I keep looking for the lesson in all of this. Is it resilience? Discernment? Patience? I was always good at reading people. I thought that was one of the things I could count on about myself. And yet here I am, having walked into one toxic situation after another, choosing wrong at every turn. Or maybe the choosing wasn't wrong exactly. Maybe the people revealed themselves, and I just didn't have the luxury of walking away sooner. When you have nowhere to go, you stay where you are until you can't anymore. That's not a character flaw. That's just the math of having nothing. The court had, by this point, ordered James to continue paying the bills. He had complied for a while, and then he hadn't. My money was nearly depleted. I had enough for a couple more payments on the credit card and the car, and then I was done. I was eating because family was feeding me. That was the actual reality of my life in January 2026. I was eating because people who loved me were putting food in front of me. I got on the plane to Wyoming. I hope to talk to Heather again someday. I think we will. But Karen, she can go fuck herself. New chapters of The Unraveling drop every Monday. We all have secrets. Some we never say out loud. If you have a story that lives in the dark, obsession, betrayal, heartbreak, desire, reinvention, I want to hear it. Send me an email at lipservice68@gmail.com or find me on YouTube at Scarlett After Dark Official. Your secrets are safe with me. Let's tell your story.
This is Scarlett After Dark. Scarlett After Dark. Scarlett After Dark. Scarlett